Good morning, everyone. We would like to welcome everyone to the December 6, 2024 Volusia Forever Advisory Committee meeting. Welcome to everyone that is in chambers and that might be listening online. For those of us in chambers, just a quick reminder, please put your cell phones on silent so that we are able to concentrate on our speakers without interruption. And with that, if we could have roll call, please.
Wanda Van Dam.
Here.
Jessica Gao.
Here.
Steve Crump.
Here.
Kelly Frasca.
Here.
John Gamble.
Here.
Derek LaMontagne is on standby via Teams. John Macaluso.
Here.
Suzanne Schneiber.
Here.
David Sosa.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, very good. As you heard, Mr. LaMontagne is on standby. He has requested that because he is not feeling well, that he be allowed to attend the meeting virtually. And in order for that to happen, we need to make a decision as a committee. So we need a motion and then a vote as to whether or not we wish to allow him to attend virtually. So if someone would like to make a motion on that, then we can vote on it.
I'll make a motion for,
Mr.
Derek
LaMontagne.
LaMontagne, yeah, sorry,
I'll second.
to attend virtually.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Kelly Frasca, and the first second came from Mr. Macaluso. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, very good. All right, that brings us to public participation. I do not have any forms, but I believe we have someone that would like to speak. Great, thank you. All right, Miss Tina Swift, please.
Good morning. Thank you all for the opportunity to provide comment on this important matter. My name is Tina Swift, 419 Lemon Bluff Road in Osteen. I'm here today representing the Osteen Preservation Society and Osteen residents. As you've seen from the emails sent this week by members of our community, Osteen is proud to see more of the environmentally sensitive and agriculture lands in our area up for conservation consideration. We encourage the board to approve the Lafise and Hartung applications for conservation easements covering over 1,000 acres. These lands represent a vital opportunity to preserve Volusia County's natural heritage. Approving these conservation easements would ensure that these valuable ecosystems are protected for generations to come, safeguarding local wildlife, water resources, and the agricultural and rural character of our community. As you well know, the retention of farmland preserves not only the stability of the ecosystem, but also preserves a dwindling way of life. No farmers, no food. By supporting these applications, the board will make a significant impact on conservation efforts in this area of Volusia County. This decision aligns with the mission of Volusia Forever and demonstrates a commitment to preserving the unique and irreplaceable landscapes in our region. We urge you to vote in favor of these easements to help protect this land for good. Thank you for your combined efforts and dedication to preserving our county's natural resources. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Swift. Anyone have questions for Ms. Swift? Okay, very good. Thank you for that. That brings us to the approval of the October 25, 2024 meeting minutes. Does anyone have any corrections, changes, additions that they would like to make to the minutes? Okay, hearing none, would someone like to make a motion on the minutes, please?
I'll move to approve the minutes as they're presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Crump and a second by Ms. Gao for approval of the minutes as written. All in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, very good. And that brings us to new business, which is eligibility review, and we will turn it over to staff.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Thank you. All right. Good morning. I've got to keep this close to me. Okay. Tim Telfer, Land Acquisition Manager. So we are now going to review a number of applications. We're at the eligibility stage. We're not ranking today. This is just determining whether the projects that have been submitted to the program fit the program criteria. So that's our evaluation this morning. And I think you have all been through this a number of times, so I'm going to skip a lot of the other details regarding our process today and jump right into the first item. So the first application for your consideration is called John Anderson Drive. This is a fee simple application, roughly 14 acres in northeast Volusia County. Staff scored it at 11 out of 21. The minimum required here is 10 out of 21. We're not within an acquisition target area. I will mention this is within the optimal boundary of the state parks in this area. It does have significant adjacent conservation property, both North Peninsula State Park and Bulow Creek State Park. And with that said, we'll stand by for any questions from the committee.
Okay, any questions on the John Anderson Drive property? Mr. Sosa?
Okay, my question, I was looking at the price tag. It says 4.2 million for, 14 acres, 9 of it which is wetland. So basically it breaks down to like 300,000 an acre for wetlands. Now, is that something that the council would vote on if, say we deem it eligible and the price is just out of range? Because me personally, I wouldn't pay 4.2 million for it. But is that something the council would approve or disapprove?
So we'll talk about kind of the final steps, and under the assumption that it's made eligible today and ranked, we bring it to the council. The next stage for staff is obviously we go out and we order a title report on it. I do want to bring to the committee's attention there is already a PUD on this property here, and that's why you see that higher asking price. It already has that entitlement in place, and that reflects fair market value. So we go out and we order the appraisals on this property. That PUD is going to be part of their analysis there in determining what actually is fair market value. Those appraisals set a limit on how staff, the upper limit on what staff can negotiate and present to the county council, but that whole entire package will be presented to the county council assuming that we can reach an agreement, meaning assuming that our offer is accepted, and it's not speculative or a pro forma offer. It's just based on market value. So that'll be presented to the county council, and it'll be up to them to make that final decision on whether they deem the property worthy of that price tag.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I thought you had a question. Mr. Gamble?
Since this is next to the county park, have you guys thought anything about, I see there's upland adjacent to that. I was wondering whether you'd carve that off and use some other funding for that instead of the environmental area, or did you want the whole thing? I mean, because that's a tiny little park that's pretty heavily used. I don't know whether you've talked to Tim about that or not, but it just seems like that's one of the ones that it seems like it might be a joint, project. So
yeah, we would be discussing with the other agencies in our partnership and negotiation some of the strategies.
yeah, I mean, would the state be interested in throwing in on that too? Because all the rest of that around there is state. I mean, and it's not like it needs a lot of management or anything up there. So
Yeah, so I'm going to answer that question and try to be careful that I'm not committing the state to anything.
exactly.
I have forwarded this application package to my colleagues at the Department of Environmental Protection that manage the Florida Forever funds. It's not an official response, but it was positively received. I'll put it that way.
Gotcha. Okay. Enough said.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Ms. Schreiber?
So I have a few questions. There was a section that said that the land was cleared. When was that authorized to be cleared? Was it actually vegetation cut down, it was cleared, or did it mean cleared as in just an open area already? I was asking about that because there was a section that said cleared.
So that is a question that we may have to get back to you on because we have not dove into whether there were permits and the extent of clearing and the time, place that it took place in
Okay.
preparing for this meeting. But we'd be happy to get you an answer.
Okay, that's fine. The public recreation opportunities, there was mention that there was a new dock there, but I think public recreation opportunities said a 3. And I was wondering why that scored a 3, if you had an opinion on that, because there's a dock there, which would mean maybe kayaking, and it was a new dock because it specified new.
So you're referring, when you say 3, you're referring to the staff score.
Correct.
Okay, so I'll give the usual caveat that our scores are advisory. And when we put a 3 there, that's a result of some staff gathers up, we all score it individually, then we meet as a group, and then we work through whether there's a positive or a negative response to the question. If there's a positive, we try to give it a score on 1 through 5. And that's simply our opinion on how well it fits that question. And you as a committee certainly have the prerogative here to weight it higher than staff has.
Okay. 3 is so middle of the road. I just wondered if you considered the new dock and if the new dock was actually available to the public already, or if there's something that's not usable. I mean, I'm asking because there's a new dock. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I can't answer if the dock is available for the public. This is still a private piece, but I will
Okay.
weigh in on the weight of the scoring. Some of the things we look at is the carrying capacity of the property. This is not a large 500-600 acre property that could support multiple recreational uses. So that would be the reasoning for the weight we gave. Is the size of the property does play into that and the carrying capacity.
Okay, so did staff tour the property?
I have not been on property.
We have not toured the property.
All right, and it's currently zoned for what, ESC, I believe? Environmental Systems? Is that correct? But yet there's a PUD on it?
So I see ESC under the future land use map as a future land use for the property, and the
Right.
zoning as the PUD.
Okay. A 3 on matching funds, I'm assuming that's because you don't really know if the state park system is, you're not committing for them, and is that the case with the 3 on that?
That's an affirmative. So we're technically not within a Florida Forever boundary here, but we're within a proximity in an area that the state has been able to apply their funds outside of a boundary. They do have some flexibility depending on proximity to the boundary and then the value of the property. So we believe that there's a high potential here, but again, we can't commit the state to a partnership yet.
I understand. And I'm perplexed as to why we're discussing price as part of whether it qualifies or not, because the statement that was made about it being so expensive, I thought the instruction was to us that we're not judging whether or not it's eligible based on the price. So I'm just letting everyone know I was kind of turned off by that, because we've approved some extremely expensive pieces before, and we've approved less expensive, and we don't get involved in the negotiations. So I'm just, maybe that's more of a statement, but I'm letting staff know when you put the price in there, it opens the door for that type of judgment to be made. That's all I'm going to say, okay?
Yeah, historically, we've always given the value of the property by the taxpayers. Historically, that's always been on there, but also historically, we've been instructed that we are not to consider pricing, and that our evaluation is on the merits of the property, that the pricing is put in there for general information, but shouldn't be part of our consideration. So I understand it both ways, and I've wondered that myself, if it'd be better not to put that in there, but historically, it's always been in there.
So I wasn't going to comment until the comment came up.
Yep,
I just want to say that out loud. I view this as being desirable to the state, as well as like the Tomoka Marsh property. It's a similar type situation, opposite sides of the river, but similar. And that property was eligible, and it took a long time, but it progressed to the point where the state took it over. I understand there is no definitive answer as to what would happen with matching funds, no matching funds, state taking it. Like, that's all an open-ended decision right now to happen in the future. But if it's eligible, it's eligible. I just want to point that out. I do understand. I think this is going to be a difficult call because of the fact that the price was there and been commented on, and I find that to just be an unfortunate situation. I just want to point that out again.
So when Mr. Sosa asked the question, I viewed it as not relevant to his decision on whether the property was eligible or not, but just more requesting an understanding of how these prices are factored in as the county council considers an acquisition, which is multiple steps down the road from where we are today. I viewed it as more of informative and not necessarily meant to influence the decision that would be made today.
Well, from an opinion standpoint, I didn't view it that way. And that's why I'm saying this out loud. David is entitled to his opinions, and that's not my point at all. My point is once we talk about the price out loud, I think that it has an impact. That's all I'm trying to say here. I think that's it for right now.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Schreiber. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I
Mr.
just
Campbell?
want to comment. I've been on that site a bunch over the years. That whole central area is a black rush salt marsh. We've seen alligators and stuff in it. Now, I haven't been on it in the 2000s because I left mosquito control, but we used to land in there, check for mosquitoes. We used to spray that regularly. That's a mosquito producing marsh in there. So, and you can see on on page 28, the stuff that shows the estuarine marsh and how much of that property is marsh. Now, they might have got a PUD to put something on the upland, but the dredge and fill cost for that would be pretty high. So I think to me, it's a good parcel, just because it's proximity to the county park and all the rest of it stayed around there. It's really an inappropriate place to put development and that kind of thing. And it has a really nice, pretty nice marsh in it. At least it was when last time I saw it. So and I don't think it's changed at all since then. So.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
I have one more question.
Okay, Ms. Schreiber?
It was noted that there was a storage building on the property. That was the only building noted, but it did say storage building on the property. Because I made a note about it. Do you know the size of that?
I don't have any information on the size of the structure.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, anyone else? All right, with no further questions, would someone like to make a motion on the John Anderson Drive property?
I'd like to move that we make it eligible.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second it.
Okay, motion by Mr. Gamble, second by Ms. Schreiber. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of deeming this property eligible, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, very good. On to property number 2, Lafise Corporation, please.
All right, before we get into the Lafise Corporation property by itself, I just wanted to bring to the committee's attention this proximity map, because the next 4 applications are all right here together. And I know the original location map could not show them very well. So I wanted to provide this for a visual. This is all four applications are all the same family, all willing sellers, and all asking for a conservation or agricultural easement on the property. So I wanted to point out to the committee that we did evaluate each of these properties individually from each other. So they were not evaluated together. Each criteria, they will stand on their own, but I wanted to provide the map as a reference for location purposes. So the first property is the Lafitte Corporation. It is a working forest and farmland agricultural easement, staff score of 16 of 19, requirement of 9 of 19. It's approximately 935 acres. It is in the Volusia Conservation Corridor and the Florida Wildlife Corridor. It's adjacent to the Palm Bluff Conservation Area as well as a Volusia County held conservation easement.
Okay, and thank you for that map. That helped because I was drawing on our existing maps and it's kind of hard because they're so vibrant, but that helps a lot. So any questions for staff on the Lafitte Corporation property? Okay. With no questions, would someone please make a motion on this property?
I move to make this property eligible.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Sosa, a second by Mr. Macalusa to find the property eligible. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Very good. Property number 3.
All right, the next property for consideration is the Donald and Chelsea Harding property. It is also a working forest and farmlands agricultural easement application. Staff score of 12 of 19 with a requirement of 9 of 19, plus or minus 10 acres. It is in the St. Johns River Water Management District 5-year acquisition plan. The adjacent conservation property, there are none. This is a smaller 10-acre piece adjacent to the larger 900-acre piece you just viewed.
Okay, so at this point, there is no, it's not adjacent, but potentially is adjacent due to the larger piece, as are all of these.
Yes, today it is not adjacent to a current eligible Volusia River property.
Okay, okay, very good. Any questions of staff on this? Okay, not hearing any questions. Would someone like to make a motion on the Donald and Chelsea Harding property?
I'll move that we make it eligible.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second, Steve Crump.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Gamble, a second by Mr. Crump. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, very good. Property has been voted as eligible.
All right, the next property for consideration is the GNS Lafitte Family Trust property. It is a working forest and farmlands agricultural easement with a staff score of 11 of 19 with a requirement of 9 of 19. It's approximately 21 acres. It is also within the St. Johns River Water Management District 5-year acquisition plan and currently not adjacent to a eligible Volusia River property.
Okay. Questions for staff on this property? Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Crump.
This one has that little track off to by the highway. Is that the one we're looking at? GNS Lafitte?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Any further questions? Okay, would someone care to make a motion on the GNS Lafitte Family Trust properties?
Move to make it eligible.
Second.
Mr. Sosa, was that you?
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion by Mr. Gamble and a second by Mr. Sosa to find the GNS Lafitte Family Trust property eligible. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, please signal by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, very good. That brings us to property number 5.
Property number 5 is the John and Susan Harding property. It is a working forest and farmlands agricultural easement with a staff score of 9 of 19, with a requirement of 9 of 19. It's approximately 10 acres. It is not in an acquisition target area or adjacent to a current conservation area or eligible Volusia River property.
So same situation until when and if the property has been deemed eligible. It will then be adjacent to other conservation properties. But at this point, we can't call it adjacent.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, okay. Okay, Ms. Scow, question?
I just see in the summary that it references cattle and timber, I think probably just timber, but is all of the surrounding area around the homes, do you know if that's planted crop? It looks very orderly, so I would...
It does look like it's planted pine from the aerial photographs.
Any further questions? Okay, hearing none, would someone please make a motion on the John and Susan Harding property?
I'll make a motion to move eligible.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Frasca. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, a motion by Ms. Frasca, a second
He
by
spoke
Mr.
at the same
Sosa
time
to
you
find the John and Susan Harding property eligible. All in favor, please signal by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, very
The
good.
exact same.
And I will add for the committee that we received a number of letters of support for these properties. We received 3 more this morning before the meeting, and we will get those out to you in an email.
Okay, okay. Yeah, no, these are some good properties, so very exciting.
And
Ms. Gow?
I think those additional letters were put in our binder too. When we got here, there were 3 more.
Confirm.
Okay. Okay. That brings us to item number 5, staff comments and reminders.
Okay, so I'm going to start out with our property update phase of the meetings, just to give you folks an idea on where all these projects are that you've been handling over time. So first of all, the Evans project is behind us now. We spoke about that at the last meeting. Morgenstern has closed. That was led by the St. Johns River Water Management District. They've closed on the property. The Stewart property, if everybody recalls, that's the 2,500 acres in the Edgewater area. We are in the closing process right now, so we are in the document distribution and execution phase of closing on that project, and that should be wrapped up in the next couple weeks. McMillan, this is a piece of property that we have had an offer approved internally here. We're going to distribute that offer probably later today before close of business. That's our target goal. Cooper, this was approved by the County Council for acquisition on November 19th. We've got the Phase 1 and survey ordered. Obviously, once those are completed, that'll move to closing also. After that is Double Eagle. Double Eagle is kind of tracked along a little bit slower than desired, but we are engaged with the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services as a financial partner on this transaction. They had, as a matter of policy, decided to order their own appraisal on the property, and that appraisal has been a little bit delayed by some health issues by the appraiser himself. So we are nearing the offer stage on that one. We're simply just waiting for the state's report to come in. The Carter Quail property, still scheduled for the Governor's Cabinet meeting on December 17th. We expect that one to go through without any issues. Tomoka Marsh, up in the northeast corner of Volusia County. The appraisals are now underway, and in fact, that the appraisers conducted a site visit on November 20th. So we should see their reports in the next probably month. The holidays may slow that down. It may be towards late January, but the state is obviously pursuing this one. Tomoka Farms Road. This is another project that we are currently in communication with the landowners on. We've completed the title phase, and we're getting a couple more matters organized before we order the appraisals. That one should start very, very soon, and we'll move towards an offer on that one very soon. Lake George Inn Holdings. This is a partnership with the St. Johns River Water Management District. There's been an offer presented to the owners, and we're simply waiting for a response on that one right now. I want to point out, so the Rural and Family Lands Protection Program, this is our partner through FDACS, Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. They're going to be opening up another application window on December 18th. It's going to run through January 29th. We've targeted some projects that we want to have submitted to that program, but I share that with the committee as you go out and speak with the public. If there's somebody that doesn't want to work through Volusia Forever, they can apply directly to the Rural and Family Lands Protection Program starting on December 18th. So as you know, we had opened up our Regional Conservation Partnership Program application window. We have both the Caraway Lakes and 4-Star Timber applications processing through right now. And we are already talking about opening up a second application window somewhere around February or March. We just have to get a couple of these applications organized for that. I'm going to move on to the resolution before I continue with my updates. I've got some that'll be better explained via PowerPoint slide, but we put Resolution 2023-77 status update on the agenda. We're going to distribute that via email. What you're going to see come back to you is the same document that you saw in July when we had our workshop. So that simply addressed the eligibility question at that time. We're going to put that back out for your consideration, as well as any other issues that you feel are pertinent that may need to be modified in that resolution. What have we learned over time via handling these applications that would make our process more efficient, more accurate? We're looking for that feedback from you all. We're going to ask that you respond via email so we can compile all those requested changes. We'll bring those to your attention at the February meeting and try to get an approved resolution to present to the County Council either in February or a subsequent meeting there. I do want to point out, I'm going to throw it in right now, that when we talk about the timing of these meetings, there's going to have to be some special handling as we work through this resolution. We may have to call another meeting, possibly in late February, to get it approved, because that is that all of your terms do expire in March. So everybody must reapply that wants to stay on the committee. Just want to point that out and make sure everybody's aware that you're going to expire in March. Please reapply if you want to stay on the committee. Okay, so I'm going to move to the 2025 meeting schedule unless there's any questions. Okay, so we are putting the meeting schedule on display right now. I'm not sure if everybody's brought their calendars and is prepared to approve this schedule, or you need a little bit more time.
What is the feeling of the committee? Would you prefer to look and discuss this later, or is everyone comfortable with stating that these meetings are good with them?
Madam Chair, I'd prefer to take a look at it and get back, because, like I stated earlier, I have 3 calendars home, and they all have to make sense.
Okay.
I agree with him on that.
Same with
Yeah.
you? Okay. How would you like to handle this, staff? Do you want emails sent in, or do you want to put this to the next meeting, or what works best for staff here?
Please email us, and we'll try to get this distributed back to you for approval at the February meeting. And also bear in mind, we may have, if we're not approving the resolution at the February 7th meeting, we're probably going to call another meeting in late February before your terms expire to get a vote on that document.
Yeah. And I think there's possibly also potential for additional meetings depending on timing of the properties being deemed eligible and then wanting to move them forward as quickly as possible. I think everyone needs to understand, as we put in applications for the committee for the coming 2 years, that there's a potential that we're going to have more meetings to try to move these properties along. So, Ms. Schreiber.
If this schedule stays as what you presented, I'm good. What you got right here?
Okay, so if everyone could email staff with, even if it works well, that you don't have any conflicts, please just let them know so that we can get the schedule approved as soon as possible. Again,
Okay.
bearing in mind potential for additional meetings.
Can you email this slide to us, or the dates on an email?
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes, we
Because I
can.
don't have that at home, so.
Yeah. Yeah, and please, when we distribute it, please take a look at your calendars and get back to us as soon as you can, because if we have to move meetings, we'd like to reserve the rooms as early as possible to hold them.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Okay, so may not display terribly well, but the next topic we're going to talk about is an update to the Volusia Conservation Corridor expansion. So we've talked about this a number of times over the years. This is one of the goals of the committee, is to work on this expansion project. We had originally been partnering with Latchbush Conservation Trust and had extensive dialogue with the University of Florida. What we found out is that when our mapping specialist, Mike Richards, was hired, he was capable of doing all the same work that we were considering outsourcing to those groups. So Mike has gone through and done a pretty significant analysis. We have a physical copy of his report that we've distributed to the committee members there. And so what you see on the screen here, everything on the left-hand side is the Volusia Conservation Corridor boundary as it exists today. And then on the right-hand side are the proposed expansion areas. And Nick may be able to explain a little bit better some of the GIS analysis that went through there if you have questions on that. The bottom line is we do have recommended areas for expansion. So the next phase for us is to start some dialogue with the state and talk to them about the willing seller process, because that's the next thing that we have to do, is reach out to landowners that may be within these expanded boundaries and make sure that they are comfortable with their property being included in this application, make sure they understand that it has no regulatory weight. It doesn't mean that we are going to seize their property or anything like that. So we probably have extensive conversations that we'll have with landowners within the proposed expansion areas there. Is there a question? I see you moving to the microphone.
I have a question.
Okay.
On the right, it's a little blurry, so I'm asking in general, I mean, I see the left and I see the right. Is it basically just everything outside of what's on the left that is in the possible expansion? I don't want to presume something here, that's why.
Yeah, so his analysis looked at a number of different layers, the same layers that the state had been using for a lot of their project analysis. And this is the output from his analysis. So he's, plugged all these GIS layers into his software and written some scripts for it for the analysis and weighting. And this is the output of that process. So it would be the additional green and yellow areas that we would look at including.
And the significance of green versus yellow?
Okay, help me out. All right, so I'll dig into the GIS side of this a little bit. So we utilized 3 different state layers, one from FWC, one from FNA, and one from the Florida Wildlife Corridor. And we have overlaid that throughout the entire county, and also overlaid that with our current Volusia Conservation Corridor. So what we've done is we've identified areas where all 3 of those layers overlap. On the right-hand side of that slide, that is the darker green that you kind of see with the border. So those are the highest priority layers where all 3 data sets overlap. The yellow are where some layers overlap, but not all 3. So for us, they're a secondary priority ranking to the first one. So the map on the right shows the current Volusia Conservation Corridor with the highest priority and the secondary priority layers expansions.
Okay, so at this point, we are presenting to the state, but we don't have any idea what the state's response is going to be. Will they respond to, do we know, will they respond to the idea in general, or are they going to want to respond to each addition? Do we know what to expect there?
Well, this is a draft form right now, so some of this will rely on the willing seller aspect if there are any adjustments that need to be made at that point before we take it to the state.
Okay, okay. Have any other counties gone to state with something like this to expand their corridors, or are we the first that are attempting this?
We're not the first. It's not uncommon to see modifications to your Florida Forever boundaries.
Okay.
So there is a path there. And as Nick said, we do have a little bit more homework to do before it's formally submitted to the Acquisition and Restoration Council, and that's the extensive first stage before it actually becomes an additional eligible area. But we'll reach out to their staff also. So we've been in communication with them about a number of projects and how their processes work and how Volusia integrates within their processes. So we'll reach out to staff directly before there's an official submittal on this application.
Okay, so this is a lengthy project. This is not something that we're going to see a resolution to quickly here. We've got a lot of steps to go through before we have a resolution one way or the other.
That's an affirmative, and that's a great transition for me. If there are no other questions, I'd love to oh, you have one more. Okay.
Sorry.
All right.
So, did you do ground truthing to come up with this as well? Is that what I'm understanding here?
No, at this point, there's no ground truthing. This is based off available data sets and aerial photography and current
Okay.
boundaries.
And then, my understanding was not a whole lot of counties have pursued this, so you're saying some have, ever how many. Has there been a fairly good track record for those counties in success? Do you know? I mean, just a simple yes or no. I'm not looking for details here.
Yes, with data support, they've had success.
Okay, good to know.
We do know that we can't go to the art committee and just bring, we just want to expand it to the wildlife corridor. That's not going to
No, I understand. That's, yeah, I get it. I understand.
Okay, so like I said, I'm going to use this as a transition point, but let's back up a step so everybody understands what we're talking about here as we work this through the Acquisition and Restoration Council. And what it does is it opens up an additional Florida Forever project area. So that means, pardon me, that there are additional funds that are available for partnerships or to request the state take the lead on projects. And it also saves a lot of time because when you're within a Florida Forever project area, you don't have to go through the Acquisition and Restoration Council. So as a staff person, I package it up and I send it to my colleagues at the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. They have a process called triage where internally their staff will take a look at all the requests that are coming in and make a determination on what the staff capacity is to handle those applications and then assign them out to various acquisition staff members. So again, that's the real benefit of expanding out these Florida Forever project areas. But I also have some very good news that I'm going to put up on the next slide here. Okay, so what we're taking a look at right now is the Ocala to Osceola Wildlife Corridor. So let's start on the map on the left. And if you see the yellow boundary on that map there, that was the old, I'm going to call it O to O for the remainder of the conversation. That was the old O to O boundary area. It's since been modified to the red. And if you look closely, that red area now moves in down through Volusia County, and we've kind of put a map on the right side showing where our current projects fall within that area. So why is this good news? This is good news for a number of reasons. First of all, this operates the same way any Florida Forever project boundary does. Any projects that the county council has put on the A or B list, our staff then can package up and send to the DEP staff and request that it be reviewed in their triage process. So basically when you take a look at the majority of the northwestern portion of the county and down through the central portion of the county, when we have applications come in and we automatically have a partner with the Department of Environmental Protection, and we immediately move past the Acquisition and Restoration Council stage and immediately start dialogue with their staff and requesting them to pick it up as a project, either in partnership or for them to take the lead on. The other reason this is good news is this is one of two projects, the O to O, and there was a project down in South Florida, the 2023 legislative session. These two project areas had a combined special allocation of about $800 million. Now, I don't know how much of that has been spent down yet, but there's significant funds remaining. So now what we're looking at is we are starting to stack different funding opportunities on top of each other. We have the traditional Florida Forever boundary areas. We now have the O to O project areas. You're familiar with the Regional Conservation Partnership Program boundary, et cetera. So we are now stacking these funding partners one on top of the other here. And this is one with a significant war chest to utilize going forward. So we're very happy with this. Want to make sure you all are aware of this significant change before this, really gets out. We hope that you are, again, our ambassadors for the program, knowledgeable and can communicate with the public about these great opportunities for us.
My apologies. Did you say A or B list? The map shows just A. In your comments, did you say A or B list?
So I treated that as county council approved projects. So as we've discussed, the B list sometimes needs something more to come back. But even if you're on the B list, we can work on that something more, and you're automatically eligible for this state funding.
Thank you. Questions on that? Okay, very good. Could we back up just one second? I'm sorry. The Carter Quail property that is going to be looked at by the state. Are you involved in that process at all? Do you go and speak on that, or is your part in this finished and it's now just up to state?
We have completed our part, and it's now in the state's hands.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay.
I do want to point out, just for clarification, that Volusia County will be the end manager of that property, though. So we're still engaged in that capacity, but for acquisition purposes, the state has the football.
Okay. Okay. All right. Do you need anything from us on any of this, a vote on anything, or just for us to get back to you with the calendars and then to look at the resolution and get back to you with any changes, suggestions on the resolution?
Follow up on the calendars, follow up on the resolution, and then the reminder that eligibility is going to expire in March. So if you're going to reapply, please consider reapplying now.
Okay. All right.
And when does that window open to reapply? Is there a time date on that?
Yeah, we'll have to send something back
Yeah,
to you.
because I don't want to do it now if it's not open or whatever.
Okay.
So,
We'll get an answer for you.
okay, thank you.
Okay.
I have a question.
Okay. Ms. Schreiber.
Do you need letters of support for the submittal for the expansion of the conservation corridor to FDEP?
We will when we submit it, yes. We will need some support.
Can you let me know when that is, when you're ready?
I'd be happy to. Thank you.
And who, too, at the same time?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Other questions? All right. If no other questions, then that will conclude the staff comments, and that brings us to advisory committee comments. Anything anyone would like to comment on or questions? Okay, I'm sorry. Mr. Sosa.
I just want to say, everybody have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, since we won't see you till the next year.
Thank you. You too.
Catch it.
All right, anyone else? Very good. Thank you, everyone, for your time and attention. Good meeting, good properties. So, also, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we will see you in February. Thank you. We're adjourned.